Gość, który będzie ją prowadził, jest osobą wyjątkową dla rynku open source w obszarze EMEA, ale także dla Polski. Proszę Państwa, firma Red Hat chciałem powiedzieć, że od 55 kwartałów firma Red Hat w sposób ciągły zwiększa swoje wyniki od wielu, wielu lat. No ale zostałem wyprowadzony z błędu. Te 55 kwartałów to nie jest prawdą. Prawdą jest 56 kwartałów, ponieważ kolejny kwartał się skończył i nasz gość poprawił moją wypowiedź. Firma Red Hat jest jedną z większych firm software'owych. Jej sprzedaż to są 2 miliardy dolarów. Natomiast gość, który zaraz będzie mówił na temat tego, co planuje w najbliższym czasie, i ma ambitny plan, aby dokonać sprzedaży 1 miliarda euro, 1 billion euros na obszarze EMEA. Szanowni Państwo, gościem naszym jest Senior Vice President and General Manager na obszarze EMEA. Jest odpowiedzialny za opracowywanie i realizację strategii biznesowej Red Hata w całej Europie, na Bliskim Wschodzie i w Afryce.
A o tym, jak ważna w jego strategii jest Polska, świadczy najlepiej fakt, że w ciągu 9 edycji Open Source Day występuje u nas już po raz 3.
Pomimo tego, że był także na innych. Podczas ostatniego pobytu w Warszawie na konferencji mówił, że nasza konferencja jest jedną z 5 największych konferencji open source'owych. Dzisiaj, jak z nim rozmawiałem przed spotkaniem, powiedział: wiesz co, Jerzy, wydaje mi się, że to nie 5, a w ramach 3 największych konferencji w EMEA.
Obszarami, na których Werner szczególnie skupia swoją uwagę, są sprzedaż, marketing i usługi.
Szanowni Państwo, powitajmy gorąco pan Werner Knoblich. Werner, stage is yours.
Thank you, Jože.
Good luck.
Thank you very much. I could not follow completely how you were introducing me because my Polish is still not existent, so I hope you said the right things. I will check afterwards. But I checked with Chris, he did a simultaneous translation, so it sounded like you did the right thing. Again, thanks a lot, Jože. It's already the 7th time here at the Open Source Day for me. It's, I think, 8 years ago or 9 years ago was the first time, so it's great to be here. It's one of the largest open source, events actually in Europe, which is great to see. I want to take you in the next, 20 minutes, which is actually very condensed time, a little bit through the journey and kind of talk about what's happening in the market and especially how open source technologies actually can help, which what is going on right now really in the market, okay? And when we're seeing what's going on, you see all these different buzzwords, about, cloud is everywhere, digitization, mobile first, mobile app development, software-defined anything. So this is kind of, it's not just buzzwords, it's absolute reality. Everybody is talking about digitization, and digitization, again, is not a buzzword, it is reality. Meaning if companies do not have a digital agenda, sooner or later, they will get what the Americans now are saying, Uberized. Meaning they will get disrupted by new players, disrupting them via digitization. The differentiation in the future will be purely by digital assets. And what is digital assets is at the end software, okay? So that's what it's all about. When you look at some of the studies, like I think this is a study from Gartner, where they're saying in 2020, 41% of the revenues of the companies will be associated, attributed to sales from the digital business, growing from 18% now or last year to 41%. Meaning if you do not have an agenda for that, you will not exist anymore. It's as simple as that. Because you cannot afford to not have business, 41% and not playing there. And more important, this is not a CIO agenda, it is a CEO agenda. That's why you also see more and more companies having not just a CIO, where they have a CDO, where the CDO stands for Chief Digital Officer. And the Chief Digital Officer usually always reports to the CEO and is not underneath the CIO. Okay, very important. That's where clearly companies recognize it. And there's just some famous examples from Siemens and Airbus and Barclays and Nestle, and I could go on, where it's truly a CEO agenda saying we have to become a digital company. The CEO of BBVA, one of the largest banks in the world out of Spain, is saying we have to be a software company in the future, not a bank. Because that's how we differentiate ourselves, in competition with Santander and with Barclays and whatever with all the other banks. Okay, so this is happening. This is reality. Okay, digitization. So, what does this drive? This again drives huge pressure on IT. So the demand on IT for delivering more things, new applications, faster for less money, is just the reality. So the demand is truly exploding. On the other side, the capabilities of IT to really fulfill this demand is kind of declining. So there is this huge gap, which we call is the IT innovation gap, which absolutely must get addressed, okay? And it cannot get addressed in the conventional way as in the past, to fine-tune a little bit on one side and fine-tune a little bit on somewhere else. Something more dramatic has to change, okay? And that's where this whole topic around IT transformation, digital transformation comes into play, and everybody kind of is forced to do this. Again, if you're not doing this, you will have a business problem down the road, and there are already many examples of this, because the differentiation comes to digital assets. When you listen to companies like BMW, Volkswagen, classic car manufacturers, they're saying the differentiation in the future is not the car itself. It is how is the car connected? How does the car communicate with the next cars? How is the car communicating with the garages about maintenance and so on? That's what differentiates it. Not like today, whatever BMW is giving the best driving experience. Okay? This will be less and less relevant in the future. So software is making the difference in all industries. To a certain extent, that's beautiful for us being in this industry and helping their companies to succeed. So let's go back a little bit to say, what was the evolution of the technology from an infrastructure perspective? Everything started on physical assets, then it went to virtualized assets, now it's private cloud and public cloud. So we have these 4 different kind of footprints where the end applications will run on. The problem is that these 4 footprints will also exist for a long time in the future. Physical assets and traditional virtualized servers will not go away. Okay? And it will be not just a private or public cloud environment. So these 4 footprints will exist going forward, which by definition we are kind of in a hybrid world. So that's from an infrastructure perspective. Then when you look at the development side, how it evolves, obviously there we started with classic monolithic applications, then it went into the connected world, modern web applications, and today everybody talks about microservices architected applications, which are cloud native applications. Also there the problem, the old stuff is not just going away right away. Okay, so there's a coexistence between these different type of applications from monolithic to also microservice architected. Now the big question is, how do I orchestrate this? So you have the situation that you have these 4 different footprints, you have these 4 different types of applications which you have in an environment, and how do you now run this complete environment, and how do you at the end manage this? That's where technology now comes into place, which helps tremendously solving this problem. And that's everything around containers. Containers is, in the meantime, not just a hype. Containers is a lot of reality. We see at least many of our customers, experimenting and also deploying already container-based, applications. And that's where we, from a Red Hat perspective, invest tremendous amount of money from an engineering perspective, but also from a product perspective to make it able to use container technologies, not just for your brand new development, which like some of our competitors are doing, so that you can develop new microservice architect applications and run them on a container platform. We also spend a lot of now engineering effort to be able to containerize existing applications. So kind of put a wrapper around the existing applications, also allow persistent storage in the container platform, and then you can run them on one of the 4 footprints where you want to run them. Okay, from a Red Hat perspective, this is our OpenShift platform, where OpenShift is our container-based, kind of application platform, and is also the platform which helps developers to develop the new applications. So containers is a very, very, very key, technology. Just at the raise of hands, who is playing around with containers, already has containers in use? Or a few. I'm sure there should be more. If I ask, probably, if people really pay attention, I'm sure that you're using already more. Because that's where, the whole market is going, because it helps people at the end to develop new applications faster and run them in an efficient way, and also run them combined with the existing environment. Because it's not just about how do you manage the new stuff, it's also how do you live in your hybrid world, also with your existing applications, and how do you live in the hybrid world from an on-premise and off-premise infrastructure perspective. Just in a different picture, when you look at this, kind of how IT evolved there. Okay, one, from the development process, just from a pure process perspective, started with waterfall to agile, and now everything is around DevOps, because that's where we get the agility and the speed, bringing operations and development side truly together in working together. That's how the Web 2.0 companies operate. Okay, when you look at companies like LinkedIn or Amazon and so on, they're making changes to their production environment every few seconds, not months or years or weeks. Every few seconds, they're making production changes to their environments. This is solely possible if you have a rigorous, DevOps approach. Then it's all about, as I already mentioned, on the application architecture, where it started monolithic over NT, and now it's all around, microservices. On the packaging deployment method, it's around containers. And what is the infrastructure? It's all about cloud. So now when you look at the bottom, at these, 4 things, where is the innovation happening in these areas? Okay, there the innovation is not coming out of closed source traditional companies. The innovation in these areas comes all out of open source projects. Okay, when you think about Jenkins for your continuous integration and development, or if you think about again OpenStack from an infrastructure as a service perspective, you think about all the other projects, mobility, big data, and so on. All the innovation comes out of open source, projects. Docker as the container format, open source project. Kubernetes, is a project sponsored by Google as the orchestration engine for all your container environments. All is in open source communities. That's where the innovation is happening today. It's not anymore happening with a single company behind closed doors and released as a proprietary software. The problem of today is just too big for a single company to solve it. That's where it's the power of open source. That's the power of now the innovation model, which is happening in these open source communities. Okay? Knowing Red Hat, we are in the open source space since the beginning. Have been the first ones. We got founded back in '93. Then went public in '99. We're the prime Linux company until 2006. So we really know how to live in this world. And that's also how we build all our products. So if you go to Red Hat, so how do we build our products? By participating and contributing in these open source communities. That's how we started with Linux, like I said, back many, many, many years ago. In all our other offerings, be it now in the middleware space, be it in the cloud management space, be it in the infrastructure as a service with OpenStack space, be it in the platform as a service space, be it in the middleware or cloud management with CloudForms, all our products, all our offerings are developed the open source way, meaning we contribute in open source projects, and then we take these open source projects, harden them, certifying them, and then create a commercial offer out of it with our added value subscription-based business model. Okay, very, very important. We're not adding suddenly proprietary parts to it. All our code is 100% open source. Okay, the single only thing which belongs to us in the product at the end is our logo. It's our brand. That belongs to us. All the rest is we are 100% convinced that that's the right model by truly collaborating, by truly sharing it. And that has been the success of Red Hat, starting with Linux and continuing, with all the new areas, which I have just touched on. Okay? And then what we also do in all the communities we're in, when we kind of monetize and commercialize certain offerings, we want to be also the leader in these communities, so either the first or second, contributor and influencer in their respective communities, because if you're not a big influencer in the respective communities, you have a tough time to really provide enterprise class level support to your customers. Okay, so that's why when you look in the Linux community, we're the #1 contributor already for many, many years. When you look at the whole JBoss community, we're the #1 contributor already for many, many years. When you look into like Docker, we're the #2 contributor after Docker as a company. Okay, if you look into Kubernetes, we're the #2 after Google, who were the initiator of it, company after Google to Kubernetes. When you look at OpenStack, we're the #1 or #2 contributor depending on the snapshots. Besides, companies like Intel and Rackspace and HP and so on. So we're always there in these communities, very, very important. And that's how we commercialize at the end, our products. Quickly on Red Hat, long history, but make the long story short, we are in the meantime a $2 billion company. We have close to 9,000 people worldwide. I think Jirja mentioned it. We have done 56 quarters in a row. We delivered revenue growth. Think about this. 56 times revenue growth quarter over quarter over quarter over quarter over quarter. 56 times. This has nothing to do with luck. You don't get lucky 56 times. You must be doing something fundamentally right and delivering value to customers to have this track record. Especially considering our business model that we have zero lock-in because everything we do is based on open source technology. So the exit cost for the customer, for you guys, is relatively low. It's not zero because you have skill sets and so on, but it's significantly lower compared with proprietary technology. So even despite this, or even with this disadvantage that we do not have a lock-in, okay, we have this track record of delivering 56 times in a row revenue growth. Okay? So we're very, again, very, very proud of this, and obviously also here in Poland, the market also grew significantly for Red Hat, and the portfolio expanded dramatically, where we're not anymore just a Linux company. We are in Linux, we are in the middleware, we are in cloud virtualization, cloud management, storage, and so on. I mentioned this, just a different picture, constant revenue growth, and we, anticipate that this will hopefully keep going that way. And also the attendance at this event here kind of confirms this is not hype, that's reality. And we, like I said, we get this traction like everywhere. Right now, there is the OpenStack Summit in Austin, in the US, with 7,500 attendees. OpenStack, kind of from the technology for building your private cloud, became more or less the default standard. Everybody is going for OpenStack, okay, for building your infrastructure as a service, building your own private cloud, and more even public cloud providers are going to an OpenStack-based, architecture. So there is just again another data point of the, pickup of open source technologies in the enterprise and the innovation it is driving. We always bring up a slide which we call the CIO alternative. I don't want to read through this, and it's probably anyways tough to read for you, but the message of this is that in all the different areas, at least in the broader infrastructure definition, there is an open source alternative, from Red Hat. It's not just, there is something alternative, whatever, for Microsoft, Windows, or for Sun Solaris. There's an alternative in all these different areas, enterprise class alternatives based on open source technology, built the open source way, providing added value, avoiding vendor lock-in, and having all the advantages of open source technology. What is the beauty also now also with the model, we in the meantime having more and more customers contributing with us and working together with us in these open source communities. For example, like Amadeus is our largest customer for platform as a service, kind of for our OpenShift offering, where they have like 8 or 10 dedicated people working together with us in the open source community to advance the product. Santander and BBVA doing the same for OpenShift, doing the same for CloudForms, our cloud management platform, to work with us in the communities to make sure that their features they need are also getting advanced. Okay, so that's the true collaborative model which we have as a company, and I can just invite you guys that you also actually do the same, because there are so many opportunities. Also, if you want to attract developers, if you're not allowed your developers to participate in these open source communities, you most likely will not be able to attract actually the best developers. because it's becoming kind of a prerequisite to attract top talent. Modern developers and the good ones, they want to work in these open source communities. So it's very important. So just a study from Goldman Sachs, or a statement that they're saying that Red Hat will be the most strategic vendors 3 years from now, besides Apple, Google, and Cisco. Okay, so we're getting really named with these giant companies. When you think about Apple and Google are the 2 single largest companies in the world, and Cisco is an absolutely IT giant, and we are named in the same sentence with these 3 to be the most strategic suppliers, going forward. Going back to the starting point with this innovation gap. So how do we close this innovation gap? Okay, and from our perspective, we think that you have to address it in 3 different areas. One is more from the pure infrastructure perspective, so it's more about really getting a more scalable and more efficient core infrastructure. The next level up is everything around how do I make my developers more productive, to be able at the end that you can deliver new applications to your business in a much, much faster way. Okay, and then at the end, how do you add on top of it, business agility, where things like business integration, business process management, mobile, applications getting added to it, and the whole DevOps process. You can start with all 3 areas, or you can start just in one area. It completely depends on the customer situation. But on the IT efficiency side, with infrastructure as a service, as I already said, OpenStack is there clearly the winning platform. That's what we clearly see, okay? And I always give 1 data point to see this at first, or 2 data points. One is the telco industry, where the whole telco industry decided as an industry that OpenStack is the technology platform for virtualizing the telco network, which is everything talked about NFV, network function virtualization, okay? So a huge topic. The other data point is, when you look at VMware, VMware for sure is the last company who has any interest in to succeed, that OpenStack succeeds. Because VMware wanted to be kind of the same dominant player in cloud as they are on virtualization. VMware has now their own distribution of OpenStack. That's kind of the biggest endorsement that OpenStack kind of won this. Because otherwise, VMware would never do this. They have 0 interest in doing this. They're kind of forced by the market doing this. So there we clearly see OpenStack as the winning part. But even more important is now the development side, because the application is king. The application is what drives the digital agenda. That's what makes the differentiation to the end consumer. That's why providing a good development environment for the developers, a platform to run it on, is actually the thing which gets currently the most attraction. And that's where container technologies and others come into play. And then, like I said, last but not least, adding the agility on top of it with the DevOps approach, with mobility, with the integration side, and so on. So from a Red Hat perspective, we think that we truly bring this all together, once with our consulting expertise around implementing DevOps processes, and agile methods, and then with all the technologies we have around the development environments to build modern applications architected in a microservices way, our container-based runtime environments, with our Atomic platform, with our OpenShift platform, and obviously with the core infrastructure that you can truly work in a hybrid environment, that you can run your stuff on physical machines, on virtualized machines, virtualized with us, virtualized with VMware, virtualized with Microsoft, or in a private or public cloud. Private clouds run on VMware or run on OpenStack, and public clouds like Amazon, like Google, like Rackspace and others. And everything can get managed with a kind of through a single pane of glass with our cloud management solutions. So we truly think that we are bringing this together. And to finish up, in our opinion, if you want to close this IT innovation gap, the only way to do this is through an open hybrid cloud approach. So with this, I think the future has never been so open. The counter is down to 0. Thank you very much, and enjoy the day.